Hey folks, in this interview, I'm talking with Matthew Jordan Smith. It's about a new art form. This is TWIP. Welcome back to another episode of TWIP. I'm your host, Frederick Van Johnson. Today, on the hot seat from the other side of the planet is my friend, Mr. Matthew Jordan Smith. He's coming to us from Japan in his studio, looks like over there. We're going to be talking about, first of all, for the folks that don't know who Matthew is, we're going to just dive into a little bit of his history and who the man, the myth, the legend is. And then we're going to talk about his artwork and some of the things that he's experimenting with. And then, at the end, of course, we'll find out where to go to connect and engage with Matthew Jordan Smith. How you doing, man? Welcome to the show, Matthew.
How you doing, man? It's good to be here. Very good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to chat with you. Last time we spoke, we were both physically. You remember when you could physically go places together? You and I we were physically in Arizona at Sue and George Veronaka's The Portrait Masters conference. Yes. And that was the first time I got to meet you, I think in person. Was that true. The first time we met in person? Yeah. Yeah, I got to shake your hand. Yeah, and interview you. And we had a nice conversation about Japan and photography and all that. And now we get to do it again, appropriately socially distanced with a planet between us.
Why has the world changed so much in 1 year, right? I mean, crazy.
Right. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, you think about, that was a year ago. And who would have thunk it? That we would be sitting where we are today and the world would be in the state that it's in today. And
unable to travel
reputations. No able to, it's crazy. It is crazy. But, there's always tomorrow, So
that's true.
Tomorrow.
That's true. And that's the hope that we have to all hold on to, that we'll get back to normal sometime soon. Well, it'll be a new normal, but it will be a new normal that we can all live with.
Yeah, I think, not to make this about COVID, but I think, we keep saying the new normal and the new reality and all that stuff. I think that's true. But I think another way to look at it would be sort of an evolution. It's an evolution of where we were and the safety precautions and the distancing and then being cognizant of the dangers of viruses and disease have always been a very real threat. Right. Absolutely. And now we're just realizing it and acting appropriately. So
it's true. It's funny you said that evolution, because I feel that same way. This is an evolution. Even in with photography, we're seeing evolutions happen as well. All around us. Things. This is like a turning point. It feels like I can feel it, all around us in our business and in life. It's just a turning point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, this 2020 is going to be on the map, right? 2020 it's literally on the map for the year of a lot of change, like with the COVID stuff, with presidential elections, race relations. It goes on and on. And we're only halfway through the year, my friend.
I know. That's the scary part.
There's a lot more damage that can be done.
Don't say that. Because, I think about that all the time. Okay, can we just get through the rest of the year?
Yeah, I know. We will. We're humans are amazingly resilient. We can get through a lot of stuff.
Yes, we are.
I want to talk about your amazing career, man. And it's like when we first sat down and talked in Arizona, and I've talked to hundreds of photographers over my career. Very few black photographers, ironically, but there's a whole nother story that we'll need to talk about. But when I had the opportunity to sit down with you and talk, I had kind of like the fanboy stage fright thing going on because I think I had just seen. Had you spoken yet? No, you hadn't spoken yet when we spoke, because you went on stage after that and did your talk. By the way, after you did your talk, I went and picked up one of these things. Look at that. For folks
I love that. I love
For
that.
folks that are listening to the podcast and not seeing the audio, I just held up a light meter that I purchased, a Sekonic light meter that I purchased. I already had the light meter that you used on stage. I brought this little analog one to carry around, just to carry around. You know what I bought this for? I bought this because I just wanted to start being able to see light like photographers like you see light, how you can look at a situation and say, oh, yeah, f8 at a 60th of a second, you know? So I never had that superpower to look at a scene and instantly understand what exposure it should be at. So I figured this is my crutch. It's going to help me get there.
Well, to be honest, you know, nobody can do that. I mean, we can say that for sure, and it sounds, oh yeah, I know what that is, but that's just fallacy. Nobody can do that. If you go to a movie set, I mean, if you go to a Steven Spielberg movie set, the gaffers there, the whole crew, they have a light meter. These people know light. They have light meters. They have color meters. It's a very different story. There's nobody there on a movie set saying, oh yeah, I know what that is. It's a fallacy.
Right. Yeah. And it's accuracy too. You know, let's explore that a little bit, because I've had this conversation with a friend of mine about light meters versus, you know, just letting the computer and the camera figure out everything for you, or, you know, doing a test shot and then adjusting your lights to get what you want, you know, versus measuring accurately. When you were on stage in Arizona, you did it the opposite. You went and measured values, and you knew exactly what to set the light at and what to set your camera at and all this stuff. So you knew what the correct exposure was, and then you varied that after you knew what the correct exposure was for that scene. Can you like, what would you say to photographers that say, you know what, light meters are for old people, you know, photographers from eras gone by use light meters. Today we have state-of-the-art supercomputers in our digital cameras. We don't need light meters anymore. What do you say to those people?
Well, I'll say this, you know, with my assignments, I don't have a lot of time. Sometimes I might get 15 minutes to do an image, and every second's precious. So I don't want to lose, you know, those 30 seconds or 1 minute trying to take a picture, look at my histograms, look at the back of my camera, and try to figure that out. Because in that moment could be the image that makes your career. So I'll take my 5 seconds, do my light meter reading, know exactly what the light is, know where it falls off, understand how my modifier is creating the light and how that modifier works, because they're all different, set my camera and start shooting in the moment. Because very often when you're doing that, it sets the stage. It sets the stage for your client to understand, number one, you're a professional. You're not looking at the back of the camera like they do to try to figure out if it's right or wrong. You get to work right away and capture the moment. And that sets a precedence for you and your client. They see you doing something that nobody else does, or very few do. And they're like, wow, okay, this person's using something I've never seen before. They're going right to work. They're not wasting my time and getting an image. And that gives them this self-assurance, that gives them confidence that you know what you're doing. And it gives you confidence as a photographer going into any situation that you can get the image like that consistently.
Yeah. And that's the key. And that's why, you know, I rail against not using light meters, but I like light meters from the standpoint of, like you said, being able to be accurate, being able to be repeatable, and kind of being able to design a shot on a piece of paper and kind of have your idea of what you want to do before you go in and execute on it and use that tool. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. So you opened my eyes again to the joys of light meters with your talk. So thank you. Thank you for that. So let's talk about your history a little bit. So like I said, you know, you have a storied portfolio of famous faces and some not so famous faces that are that's amazing. Can you talk about your lineage and how you got from, you know, not being a photographer to being one of the most sought after photographers in Hollywood? How do you do that?
It was just a really blessing for me. I started my career in art school, dropped out, moved to New York, and worked as an intern first, then as a photo assistant to some of the great, you know, fashion photographers in New York. at that time that started my career. I've been shooting now like over 30 years, 35 years now. So it feels weird to even say that, but start working as an assistant. And back then I just wanted to do fashion beauty. That was my whole goal, specifically beauty, and started getting work as a photographer. And it led to just doing a lot of beauty, doing a lot of editorial for magazines, doing beauty stories. And then this is at the point when they were all models on the covers of magazines. So I'm shooting all these models from different magazine covers. And then it made that transition to being celebrities on covers. And my clients came to me and said, oh, can you photograph this celebrity for a cover? My first one was Halle Berry. You know, this is back in the 90s, like 93, 94. And I shot her. They loved it. And I remember my art director said to me, can you shoot her the same way you shoot the models? I'm like, wow. Yeah, I guess so. Sure. So I did that first cover. Then I got another celebrity cover. Then I got Oprah. So that's my third cover, was shooting Oprah. And
I've heard of her.
That was like a changing point. You know, from that point on, it just like snowballed. And I became this, photographer shooting celebrity covers, mostly women. Yeah. And it just snowballed and snowballed. And then I did a book. My first book was called Sepia Dreams. And at this point, I knew a lot of celebrities. So I put together 50 celebrities and I interviewed them and photographed them, asking them the same question, basically, how did you get started? What was your big dream? Did you ever have struggles? What were those struggles? Did you ever want to quit? All those questions about how they got where they are and then how they stay there. And that book led to a lot of different things as well. It led to sponsorships by Microsoft and people like that. And it just became what it is today now. I'm known for shooting celebrities, but I shoot still a lot of beauty. And I love doing the beauty almost more than celebrity work. But now I go all over the world. Well, I used to go all over the world before COVID hit. I now live in Japan. That did not change my life at all. I spent my life going back and forth to the States, 10 to 11 times a year. Up until February. My last trip to the States was in February, and I've been in Japan ever since now. And it does feel good to not be on a plane. This is my first time in my career when I haven't flown for so long. But I must say, it feels good to sit still for a moment and work from home.
That is great. I mean, that's the flow. What you described as the sort of your path to where you are today, that seems like the dream path for a lot of photographers of starting out assisting, they get better and better, and doors keep opening up as you do incrementally more high profile gigs and your name gets out there and then suddenly you're synonymous with this thing and sought after and the phone keeps ringing. That's what people want to get to. How would you advise the younger photographers that are out there that want to do that? They're like, yeah, I want to be like Matthew Jordan Smith. I want to be shooting Oprah. How do you, is there a path to get there, or is it just hard work and luck? Like what's the secret?
There is a path, and that path is, number one, finding out what you love doing and sticking with that path, staying with that all the time and perfecting it. I think there's this thing, sorry about the ambulance here in Tokyo. No, it feels like when you are starting out, you want to learn to do everything. And learning everything is not bad. It's actually a good thing. But in that learning, you need to find your path, what you really love doing, not what you just like doing. We like doing everything, but what you love, what resonates with you. And then you follow that path and stick with that. I worked for a lot of great photographers, Gregory Heisler, Neil Barr, some really amazing photographers. But in that path of seeing them doing different things, I learned what I love doing most, and I've been on that path ever since. If you look at my work, I've been doing the same type of work for 35 years, the same look, the same type of light, that same consistency. And people love consistency. If they're going to pay you a lot of money, they want to know what they're going to get. Not wondering, oh, can you do everything? But they want to hire you for knowing that you can get this thing done and make it look the same way you've made every other image done. That's what I've been doing my entire career.
That is gold right there, because especially for somebody like me, having come from the military, where you, as a military photographer, especially a base level photographer that's not doing anything in wartime, which is photojournalism, but as a base level photographer, you need to be good at everything. You need to be a sport, or at least competent, right? So
Yes.
Sports photography, forensic photography, investigative photography, portrait photography. You're doing all of that on the base. This is what I was doing at Yokota Air Base in Japan. But as a result of that, you're never amazing or the go-to at any one of those genres, because you're just kind of scratching the surface on each one of them. Saying that you just do one thing and do it well and better than anybody else, I think, is like the golden words of the year right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wholeheartedly believe in that, because that's what I saw even as a young assistant. I noticed that the people who were working a lot, they were doing the same thing over and over again, just, with a different spin, of course, but they would perfect one thing and master it. And that was mind blowing for me to see that, because in art school, you're learning, to do everything, which is great, to learn how to do everything and understand how to do everything. But then you focus on what you love the most.
Yeah. So, but then, and I want to leave this topic in just a second, but I'm curious for the photographers just starting out, or that have some experience under their belt, but may still be rudderless, right? How do you figure out what the thing is that you want to be known for? Is it just, trying a bunch of things and seeing which one, has the most weight to it? Or, what would you suggest?
Well, here's the thing. And I think a lot of people are, especially young photographers, they're stuck trying to figure out what that thing is. Mm-hmm. But the funny thing about this is it's already in you. You already know what you love, but you may take it for granted because you're trying to say, okay, what do I want to do? If you go back to your roots and think about, what kind of movies do you like? What kind of books do you like? What kind of art do you like? Without thinking about, what you want to do, what do you like without thinking about it? What makes you laugh? When's the last time you cried? Was it a movie? What affects you? What do you care about? When you find out what those things are that you really, truly care about, that affects you, that makes you feel something, that's your path. Okay. I think your path is in you already, and you have to just, define what it is. It's already there. You've got to just find it. We all care about something.
That's the Wizard of Oz. That's what that was. Right? It was in you all along. Right?
It is. It absolutely is. And when it hits you, it's like, walking into a dark room and having the light switched on. You're like, oh, yeah. So that work you do, it's so much a part of you. It's like your DNA. And you are just doing
separate. Matthew, do you think it's separate, what you like to do or what you should be doing versus what you like to look at? Because I'll look at, I like all kinds of photography. I'll look at astrophotography, model photography, composite work over there. I get excited about that. Then I'll see someone doing some amazing sports photography. I get excited about that. So I like all kinds of photography. I like shooting the kind of stuff that you like shooting. So I like, fashion models, portraiture, that sort of thing. But does that mean, I think I like that, but does that mean I should be, because, how do you separate what you like looking at versus what you want to shoot? How do you split those?
There's a lot that we like. I love looking at landscapes. Love it. When I became a photographer, I was, really hooked on Ansel Adams and the zone system and all this stuff, coming up as a photographer. I love that. Even today, I love looking at, amazing landscapes or pictures of surfers and, in Hawaii. I love that stuff. I'm a photographer. Mm-hmm. We all love, let me say this, we like that stuff.
Yeah.
But what you love is very, very different. What you like, we can like a lot of different things, but what you love, you feel it in a very different way than what you like. I think that the thing is today, we're so, especially today, in our world, we are bombarded with images more than at any other time in our history. We are seeing images all the time. So, of course, we like certain things or we admire certain things. That doesn't mean it's your path. It just means you like it. And it's fine to like something, but what you love is very, very different. It's a deeper feeling. It hits your soul. It's not like what you like, you can like today and then forget about it tomorrow. What sticks is very different. That's part of love. If it's in your mind, if it's in your heart, if you can't not do it, that's what you love.
I love that. I love that. If you can't not do it, then it's painful to not do it. It's, because the human condition is the constant movement away from pain and towards pleasure, right? So if not doing this is moving you towards pain, then you need to push it in the other direction.
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, let's switch gears, Matthew, and talk about some of the new stuff that you're working on. I guess, new is relative. New to me, you've been working on this for a decade. Tell us about this new art form that you're working on. That hopefully, actually, you have a gallery showing. Tell us about that piece of Matthew Jordan Smith.
It's been an evolution. When I began this work, it's funny, working on, let's say you shoot a cover of Oprah. You are in this room with a select few people, and you work to get one picture that can be the picture for this cover, or the 4 or 5 pictures for a spread. So that whole shoot is about getting that image. That's photography. We're looking to find that decisive moment. We're looking to find that image in the course of photography. And that's always been photography. If you think about the beginning of photography, that trajectory led up to cinema, what we now call cinematography. It was photography that was the birth of cinema. And all of that stuff, I've always felt there's something else there. But I didn't know what it was. But on a shoot, you had this experience. Let's go back to that Oprah shoot. You had this experience, you and everybody in the room, let's say there's 15 people in the room, you get to experience this shoot as a still photographer. If it's being filmed for TV, they film it in a very different way too. But I've always felt there's something special about those still moments, but also something special about cinema as well. And we've talked about, the convergence of still and cinema, but I believe we've overlooked another vital part, and that's the experience of the whole. And I was experimenting with how to do that. And at first, I tried to put it into the realm of photography, and it just wasn't working. And then a friend of mine said, when I was very secretive about the work when I was doing it, when I was very, first experimenting and trying to figure out how to do what was in my mind. And I showed a friend. My friend said to me, "Oh my God, Matthew, this is not photography." That's the first time it clicked. That's the first time I released the idea of photography. And that's when things started to grow. Once I let go of that idea and trying to fit it into the world of photography, that's when it began to grow, and grow it did. And now, a decade into working on this body of work, I am now finally releasing it, and releasing it in a place where I think it is the most important place to release it, here in Japan. I've wanted to work on this body of work and release it in a way that I felt was appropriate. So we think back about photography in the very beginning. We think back about cinema in the very beginning. In the very beginning, there is no infrastructure around it. That comes later. But that first image, back in 1826, that first image was the birth of, think about it, all these companies that have made trillions of dollars off of photography. If you think about that, it blows your mind, boggles your mind. from Kodak to every camera manufacturer out there, to everything around cinema, to even to Apple. All that came from the birth of that one moment that happened in the 1800s. And then, that birth from photography to cinema, that took 50 years. We do it for granted today, but that was the time frame then. But all those, let's talk about, photography and cinema. Those two art forms are made to fit inside a box, inside a frame. And that's what we know. It's 2D, it's flat, but it's a moment in photography. In cinema, it's all these moments. It's the flow. But there's something else in between, and that's what I believe I have discovered and I call a new art form. And that art form at this moment, there is no infrastructure around it. You can only experience it in person. So that's why I am really happy to finally show it. As a photographer going between New York, LA, Tokyo, in creating this work, I'd have to go to certain vendors to make it come to life. So in making the work, I go to labs, and the labs would always, in New York, they see everything. In LA, they see everything. Tokyo, they see everything. I go to these labs and create the work. And because it's different, each time, like in New York, the lab owner came to me and said, I've been seeing what you've been doing, but what is it? It's the first time it hit me. That was very different. Because in New York, everybody goes through these places. And had the owner come out and say that was like, oh, okay. Then in LA, the same thing happened. And the owner there wanted can I use this stuff? I'm like, no, I'm not releasing it yet. You can't use it. But they wanted to. But they were always intrigued. Then I moved to Tokyo. And in Tokyo, people they don't come out like that and say stuff. But when I began making the work here, the versions I've done in Japan, the lab, one day I walk in, this is in the very beginning of using this lab in Tokyo. I went in to have work done. I went back again maybe 6 months later to do another version. And when I went back in that second time, which was 6 months later, people were gathered around looking at the work I did 6 months earlier, trying to figure out what in the world it was. And that blew me away. And I walked in that second time with my wife, and they're talking in Japanese, and I couldn't understand everything, but they're like saying, what is he doing? And the fact that they were all intrigued by it, New York, LA, Tokyo, says a lot. So I'm now finally showing it, finally getting people excited about it, because I'm now releasing it. As a matter of fact, I'll debut the work for the first time in Kyoto at the Kyoto Museum of Photography, a prestigious museum here in Japan. And I think the perfect place to debut the work. So I'm very, very excited about that.
You should be. That sounds exciting. And that it's interesting that a tactile sort of art form that doesn't necessarily readily lend itself to digital distribution is coming about now, right? I think,
yes.
because and this is just my own myopic opinion, right? Because we're saturated with digital all the time, and Zoom meetings and Twitch and YouTube and Netflix and Hulu and on and on and on. It's nothing but digital zeros and ones bombarding us all the time. Matthew Jordan Smith pops out with something that doesn't lend itself to digital distribution, which instantly tickles that scarcity, nerve of supply and demand, and making people more curious and more interested to see what this thing is about. So yeah, that's exciting. That is really exciting. So here's a question for you on that. So what's your vision for where this could go? Are you looking at it as this is a technique or an art form and an execution that you will be doing, or are you looking at it as, okay, I'm the pioneer, kind of like photography. I'm the pioneer of this new form of storytelling, and once I get it perfected, then millions of people will be doing it. What is your 2030, 2040 outlook look like for the art form?
The latter, actually. So it is my dream that, others can do this, take this, and make it, stronger than I could ever imagine it to be. In the beginning of photography, there's no way, beginning of photography, beginning of cinematography, that, the Piche, Muybridge, those pioneers had no idea what it would become and what it would, be today. They couldn't imagine that. And that's what I feel this is. I think that it has the potential to change a lot that we know today, and more than I can't even imagine. I approached somebody at Microsoft with this, who's in R&D, and at first, and this is me approaching a stranger, not having a connection at all, just approaching a stranger, and they got it from the first moment they saw it. So we've been working together now on ideas to take it and push it, trying to find funding from hopefully the Ford Foundation. I see this as being a game changer in the way we look at visuals, period, around the world. That's what I think it has the potential to be. Just coming from the world of, fashion, beauty, advertising, knowing what it can be in that world. I have a meeting with Netflix next week. They are interested, and I think people will be interested when they see something different that, as the world struggles right now to understand what's going on and what's next, people are looking for what's next. And I think this could be possibly one of those things. Of course, who knows?
Right.
It is my job right now just to put it out there and share it in a way that hopefully resonates with people.
All right, so I'm sure people are sufficiently curious right now about what it is and how they can see what it is you're working on. I know, like we said, it doesn't readily translate itself to digital distribution. But if they want to learn more about the work, if they want to, kind of get a deeper flavor for what it is you're working on, do you have a place set up for them to go look?
We don't yet, and it's funny because I have been very. I haven't put the work out there, except, now with the exhibit coming out, of course, I got to put elements of the work out there that render itself to do what we have today, to a device, because that's how people see stuff. But you can't get it on a device. I think Instagram's probably the best place to follow me to figure out things that are going, because I'll be doing things like that. I will be showing elements of the exhibit online. I think that will make people really curious when they see that for the first time. If you can imagine, for those who've been to MoMA in New York or been to Paris and seen Monet's water lilies. Mm-hmm. Monet's water lilies do not translate in the digital world. You have to experience it to get it. But once you are in that corridor, you are transformed. And that's what this is. Yeah. You have to experience it. So, of course, right now, people cannot travel. For those who are in Japan, please come to Kyoto for the exhibit. It is debuting from the 1st to the 13th. But the debut for me is just the beginning. I want to have a much bigger exhibit here in Tokyo, and then also have a much bigger exhibit in New York and in LA once we can travel again. That is my goal for sure. And then, of course, to take it off to Paris and to all the big hubs around the world. That is a goal of mine, to have it seen on a large scale so people can experience it, and then hopefully go from there into, producing what I work with. By the way, it's not work. I don't work for camera to create this work. It's a prototype I've been working and perfecting over the years to make work the way I want to work to create these images. Because today, there's nothing around that can do this type of work.
I love that. I love that. See, that, when we talked offline, I think, what was it, last week? We were talking just sort of about the idea of storytelling and different ways of telling stories with photography, and how a lot of that's sort of remiss in what's going on today. I'd love to see innovation in any area, and we very rarely see innovation in the photography genre on just new ways of telling stories or showing imagery, and so this is really exciting to me, is what you're building. So congratulations. Having not seen the work yet, I already feel like it's awesome. So I think it's going to be good. I think it'd be worth a trip to Tokyo or Kyoto,
Absolutely.
especially if you're funny. In the area.
Definitely. If you're in the area, for sure, it's funny because nobody can get into Tokyo right now unless you are a resident. Right now, travel's restricted. But the funny thing about that, I think because of that, people want to come even more.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll lead to getting much bigger exhibits once things open up to show the work. And hopefully, through other innovations, working with Microsoft and their R&D department, it can be seen in another way. We'll see. But I'm excited about the future. I think in terms of, this is definitely, inspired by photography. It's inspired by photography. It's inspired by cinema. I love movies. It's inspired by art. I love art. These things have inspired me to create this work. And I think with all, visual creatives, once we wrap our mind around, taking the borders off. Like if you look at a picture, if you think about taking the borders off, it just opens your mind to new ideas. And that's exciting.
I love that. All right. I want to wrap this up with a couple of final, or actually one big final question for you, kind of off of the genre or the topic of the new work and the history of Matthew Jordan Smith. I'm curious about, you being one of the very few Black photographers working at the level that you're working at, with the access to celebrities and being in the speed dial of people that we wish we were in the speed dial or, what's a day in the life, as much as you can encapsulate it, it's good to call it pre-COVID, but what is it like and what are some of the challenges navigating the world of high fashion and celebrity photography as one of the sole African-American photographers working in the genre?
Well, I think the superpower for every photographer is your point of view. And what's great for me, in that there are so few African-American photographers Black photographers who are working, is that we have a point of view. I think, once you accept your point of view as being unique and people are looking for something unique and different, you can share that with the world. And that opens up things. Once you find those clients who are open to you and your point of view, that's, I think, the special part. I was very, very fortunate coming up. I had, mentors like Gordon Parks. And, seeing him, meeting him, being inspired by him, funny thing is I was inspired by him as a kid, reading his books, seeing somebody who looks like me doing that was powerful. It's still powerful, even more so today. And I want to be the one to push others to do that, who look like me and beyond. I've been blessed in the way that I never saw it as a hindrance. I've always had this thing like, oh, if that person can do it, I can do it too. I've always had that thing no matter what, and not thought about any of the barriers that are there. They are there. Those barriers are one of the things that pushed me to leave the States and move to Japan, as a matter of fact. Those barriers, and then also thinking that I could bring my art form to life in a stronger way by being in Japan. I think that was essential as well. But those barriers led me down this path where I am today. And here I am launching, this new art form here at a time when, things are changing, which is also kind of weird that has happened like that. I believe in making goals. I've had a goal. I write things down, and I wrote a goal down a long time ago, September 1st, 2020. Been saying that forever. When the museum approached me and told me they wanted me to have a gallery, exhibit on September 1st, 2020, this was last year when they approached me. I was kind of shocked with that date because I'd written that date down a long time ago. It's in my goals that I say every day. So there is power in you putting goals out there and saying it and believing it, no matter what is coming up against you, no matter if there's racism or whatever. You go with your goals, and the universe, God, helps you get there. And that's what's been happening with me all my life.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think one of the, I think I've read this somewhere, or I don't know. I'm pretty sure I didn't come up with it, but there was a saying that said one of the most diabolically brilliant tricks that racism ever performed was convincing segments of the population that they did not have wings. So that's, and then, and there are a select few that know that we do have wings and choose to use them. But there's a lot of people that don't realize that they have wings and think other people do, and they don't for some reason. So
I love that. Yeah. I love that. And it's very, very true. It's very true. You can trick yourself to believing anything. But yes, God put us here with wings, all of us. You have to use them. Yep.
And don't let anybody tell you don't have wings, because you do.
Absolutely.
You no matter what you look like, you got wings, and you just got to, flap them and figure out where you need to go and what kind of bird you are, right? Are you an eagle or are you a hummingbird? But you're a bird, so.
And both are very special. Both that hummingbird and that eagle are very, very special and unique.
Yep. Exactly, and they're envious of each other for different reasons.
Isn't that
Matthew,
true? Isn't that true?
It's always a pleasure chatting with you. I think about you all the time, man, because I have this thing in my office. This goes with me all the time. So give us the kind of the call to action. If people want to find out more about the work, they want to find out more about you, they want to follow you, see some of the celebrity work that you've done. What's a good place for them to go?
Definitely Instagram. That's where I choose to release a lot of my work. My website, of course, is MatthewJordansmith.com, but my Instagram is also under Matthew Jordan Smith, Matthew with 2 T's. That's where you'll find me most of the time, very active there. Come and follow me. I'll be releasing things there from the exhibit. So follow me there. It's going to be a special trip for sure in September. I'm looking forward to that in a big, big way.
Well, cool, man. Well, best of luck. And I don't know if you're supposed to say this. You're the Hollywood person, so am I supposed to say break a leg with your show? Is that good or bad?
That's totally cool. That is totally cool indeed.
Okay, so break a leg in Kyoto, knock them dead, break a leg, all that stuff. And best of luck with that. In all seriously, and again, and I know I said this several times before, but congratulations on all your successes and the amazing body of work, and just sort of waving the flag of possibility for the rest of us up there. So I appreciate that.
Possibilities are out there, and I believe our future is going to be very, very bright.
Absolutely. All right, you be safe in Tokyo.
Likewise.
Go have fun with your lockdown, and keep shooting, keep making great things. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Be well.
Okay. All right, take care.
Bye.
All right, finish. This is TWIP.